Welcome now to video number 3, where we are going to be talking about balance and showing you that the nature of health and the way that health expresses in your body is not simply a matter of one thing. You see, a lot of people who I see, they feel that if I could just find that one missing piece, that one thing, that's going to solve all of it. And what they then do is they focus all of their time and attention into that one thing, looking for and expecting the solution. But when they don't get the solution they desire, they're thinking, what am I doing wrong? And then they continue to focus on that one thing. So what I'm going to be sharing with you and showing you here is that oftentimes where the problem is not where the problem is. In other words, disease, things that we may experience in our health or well-being may be a reflection of imbalance of other areas in our life in a spot where we may not even think it is showing up. So let's start right here with what we call the wheel of life. Now, I have not created this particular concept. And in fact, there are a number of different models out there that look to identify and break down the different areas of life that you have. So you've got spiritual well-being, your sense of purpose, connection in life, your business or your career, that is your vocation, what you do from 9 to 5, your finances, are you where you'd like to be financially, your health, which is what we're kind of talking about here, your social life, which includes your family, friends, your spouse, romance, connection with human beings. You can also put kids in here as well, so immediate family. Personal growth, so this is referring to your acumen of knowledge, your sense of wisdom, your learnedness, fancy degrees, all that sort of stuff. And then fun and recreation, what you like to do from 5 to 9. Included in there's also going to be sleep, of course, but what you like to do for fun. And there are other models out there that look at 9 areas of life, or 10, or 12, or even more. Use the one that's going to work best for you, if you have ever seen this exercise before. If not, this is seriously worth your consideration. What we've tried to do is we've tried to then encompass and get the idea that, okay, in the course of what you experience in a day, in a week, in a month, in a year, in a decade, over the course of your life, all of the different things that you do are going to fit into one of these categories, generally speaking. And in each one is going to be a certain level of satisfaction. That is how much time and effort you put into it and what you feel you actually receive as the reward on the other side of that. And what we say is that we want to give yourself, and you've got this exercise to do. If you've never done this exercise, I thoroughly recommend this. Assign yourself a score of 0 to 10 in each of these areas. So let's consider finances, just because it's a really easy one to pick on. How satisfied are you with your financial well-being right now? You, of course, don't owe me the answer to that. That's none of my business. 0 would be you can't even afford the electricity on whatever device you're watching this on. 10 would be you don't have a care in the world. In fact, you've got a private jet you're about to catch. You get the idea. I'm making it up, of course. 0 is whatever you would define it as. 10 is whatever you would define it as. Your measure of success, happiness, worth, all of that sort of stuff. And you give yourself a score 0 to 10. And what you do is you then give yourself a score of 0 to 10, your level of satisfaction in each of these individual areas. Then what you do is you take those scores and you plot them somewhere along each of the charts like this. So you'd put like a dot here, and then you'd put a dot here, and then you'd put a dot down here. You get the idea, something like that. And then what you do, like you're back in kindergarten, connect the dots. Now, at any given moment in life, the idea of, okay, we need to have more balance in life. At any given moment, no, things will be out of balance. You sometimes need to spend more time and energy working on this, and you have to take it away from here. And then there are other times where you spend a bit more here, you have to take it away from here. That is normal. So it's not that you always need to maintain perfect symmetry at any given moment. That's not realistic. But nevertheless, if you're looking at an overall picture of things here, when you connect the dots around the wheel, you're looking to see, is there general or relative symmetry? Versus, is there an area where you're strong? Versus, is there an area where you are weak? Most likely, if you're watching this particular video, you're scoring a little bit low in your health. That's why you have the active interest here. But what my point I want to illustrate right here is that there are times when your health is actually a reflection of imbalance going on from somewhere else in a different quadrant, well, not quadrant, octadrant of your overall life wheel. And as you can also see, your health is only one part of the overall balance. Consider, if you would, somebody who is a 10 out of 10 on health, but everything else, they're like a 2 or maybe a 3. Is that a balanced life? I wouldn't say so, because they're missing out on so many other good things. Yes, they're a wonderful physical specimen, but that's not living. So we're not expecting 10s across the board, but you're expecting to have a good quality all around. If then you're noticing that health is diminished, what I'd have you do is look to see, is there another quadrant, another octadrant, that could also be diminished? Because where the problem is may not be where the problem is. In other words, your body being a reflection of the expression of innate intelligence, that normal life force, it is possible. But if there is an external source of stress that is disrupting your physiology, it could be manifesting in your health. In other words, you could be having a problem from something else in disguise. Where the problem is not always where the problem is. This little exercise is one of the first things that you can use to identify where perhaps is it that you need to focus. Because, and rightfully so, I'm not trying to talk myself out of work being able to help somebody out if I'm able to help you out. But if your health disorder, your symptoms, what you're experiencing is a reflection of something else, well, guess what? The advice that I would give to you, and again, this is not personalized advice, but it would be that you don't actually need my treatment. Yes, as healthcare providers, we like doing what we do. We want to help people. But sometimes the best way that we can help people is not by doing our thing. It's instead by advising somebody else, this is what I actually see is going on in your life. I think you need to focus over here. And how do you know if that's the case? Again, not personalized advice, but my own observation, my own experience. If you find yourself being triggered by the very thought that what you are experiencing is connected with something else, no, this couldn't possibly be the case. No, it can't be that. If you feel yourself feeling emotionally charged and triggered in that moment, there's probably something to that. It may not be solving it 100%, but it is worth exploring that place where you don't actually want to go. Remember what we said earlier, is that if you want a different outcome, it means making different choices. That oftentimes means doing the very thing that you don't want to do, especially if we're dealing with mystery conditions. You have to look inward, because that's the outer reflection is what's going on the inside. So your health is but one part of the overall balance. Now, it is absolutely possible, as we have already talked about, that no, it's not actually coming from somewhere else, that yes, you truly do have a health-related condition. And you can break it down into any number of different categories, but I prefer this 5 model phase right here. The first one, what we call stress adaptability. This is sometimes known as your mental well-being or your meditations or your stress. It's how well you're able to compensate and to adapt for all of the individual stressors you have going on in your life. The next one, sleep. Not only are you getting enough, but is it the quality that you need to actually wake up feeling rested? Number 3 is your nutrition. This is anything that actually goes into your body and affects your chemical physiology. So not just what you eat and drink, but also what you put on your skin, including lotions, including detergents, including sprays, hair products, all of the like. All of it ultimately that's absorbed into your body, because you are not what you eat, you are what you absorb. And this can also include things that you have breathed in, not just now, but possibly also in the past, that could still be staying latent in your system. Fitness, number 4, that is physical strength, mobility, your ability to get around and do all of the functional things in life that you need to be able to do, keeping strong bones, strong joints, and strong muscles. And the last one, function. Is your body working the way that it is supposed to? These are going to be your heart, your lungs, your digestive system, your reproductive system, your teeth, and also your spine, because that's essentially your electrical system, making sure that all the messages are working properly in your body. Now, this is interesting, and this is very important for people to understand, because if we go back a slide, we see that there are these 8 categories of life. Health was only one of them. But oftentimes when we then think about health, we think again, I just need to focus on the one thing. No. Health is at least these 5 independent and yet interrelated kinds of things. So what do we see very, very commonly out there? We see people who, of course, are experts in their individual fields. They are a fitness expert. They are a nutritional expert. And what they oftentimes do, if they've got a book or they've got a video program or something like that, taking nothing away from them, they outline this program that made a substantial difference in their own health well-being that they have done to take care of their individual patients. And they say, this is what you need to focus on in order to be healthy. But what I'm saying is that that's not true. See, even my own industry, it works on the function of the body, the function on the spine in particular. But guess what? I can make sure that a person's neurology is working absolutely brilliant. But if they don't exercise, if they don't sleep well, and if they've got way too much stress in their life, guess what? They're not healthy. So healthy is not just one thing either. It is going to be the combination of these different elements. So what do I recommend? Do the exact same exercise that you just did for these 5 areas right here. Assign a score 0 to 10. How good are you, and how much time, effort, and attention do you pay into each of these areas? That is, are you active in stress reduction strategies? Are you conscious and active in your nutrition? Are you conscious and active in your sleep, your fitness? And do you do proper systems checks, seeing the right people, getting the right blood work, the right tests, the right scans, the right all that sort of stuff to make sure all your parts of your body are working the way that they are supposed to? And assign yourself a score of 0 to 10 for each of those. Put it in the wheel and look again then to see, is there an imbalance? Because very, very easy again. If we feel that we have a problem in a certain area of our life where we're directing all of our time and attention, that may not be where it's actually coming from. For example, a person could be exercising 30 hours a week, and yet they're still sick, they're still unwell, and they could still be carrying around too much weight. Well, guess what? Odds are it's not their exercise that's the problem. It's probably coming from somewhere else. It's possible that they're eating something that they actually don't know produces inflammation in their body. It's also possible their diet is actually perfect, but they have an underlying hormone imbalance because of a chemical toxicity that they never even realized that they had. Or it could be because their normal digestive function is not working because they actually have an underlying neurological disorder. Point being, again, where the problem is, it's not always where the problem is. Look to see where you're focusing your time and attention, realizing again that health is not just one thing, and it requires balance. Yes, you may need to work more here, more there at the moment, but it requires attention in all of these areas if you want to be where you actually want to be. Now, lastly, each of those areas is influenced by different sources of stress. You see, we've talked previously about your brain being a supercomputer. Well, a supercomputer, for all of its fancy things, is still binary code, ones and zeros. All of the things that go on in terms of your interpretation of what's going on through the filter of your brain is still coded in what are called neurotransmitters. Whether it is the physical stuff, whether it's the chemical stuff going on the inside, or whether it's the mental and the emotional things that we experience, that we think about, that we feel about. All of that is filtered through our brain in these same kinds of neurotransmitters, these neurological, chemical, little bits of information and code like binary on a computer. Point being, any one of those potential sources of stress can override and express itself in and through our neurophysiology, which will show up in our health in abnormal, undesirable ways. So what we're saying here is we're saying that for every single issue that a person might be experiencing with their health, with their well-being, with their life expression, it's going to be one of these three things that is going to be the origin of that source of stress. Think of it to a certain degree like a surge protector, okay? So if you've got a normal amount of electrical flow, no issues whatsoever, but if you get lightning bolt, fry the circuits kind of flow, the circuit breaker is going to kick. I'm going to say, okay, well, that's not going to be good because if the circuit breaker kicks, then you're going to have dysfunction or you're going to have a problem at the other end. The lights go out, the food in the fridge goes off because there was no power going to the fridge. You get the idea. And that will manifest as sickness, disease, dis-ease, those different kinds of processes there. So yes, you may need to focus on cleaning up some of the mess, focusing on the symptoms, and you might have to say, okay, yep, here's the problem. It is that we have the surge protector that got fried. So we're going to address the cause right here, and we're going to be able to get everything going back on. But if the reason why that surge fried in the first place is still there in your life, guess what? It's going to fry again and again and again. This is important when it has to do with understanding the difference between cause and effect, origin, or the symptoms. You see, as we've talked about before, your body is designed to win. You are supposed to be close to 100% perfect based on your individual genetics, your anatomy. Your body is supposed to be able to heal itself. If it is not healing itself the way that you would expect it to, because there's no interference to its function, then what it means is it means that something is in the system that's continuously frying the circuit. A person should be capable of actually healing, stabilizing, and becoming independent. A person should not need to become dependent on seeing their healthcare provider every few days or so just to keep everything going. If that's the case, what does that tell me? That tells me that either number one, This person has extreme set of past circumstances that have impacted them. Sometimes that does happen, but that is an exception to the rule. Number two is that that person is really doing something wrong in their life. Or number three, your practitioner is missing something. And if the practitioner is missing something, it's because they're probably focusing on the effect rather than what the actual underlying cause is. Because when you identify what the underlying cause is and when you take the responsibility to start to change that, that's to where suddenly everything starts to improve over the course of your life. You're not just seeing little bits of improvement here, but you're seeing it over here. You're seeing it over here. And suddenly what you're seeing is that all areas of the wheel start to expand and open up. That is when you know you have truly gotten to the root cause of the underlying issue. So being aware that stress comes in three forms, that it will manifest in our health through one of five ways, but that our health is still one of only 8 parts of our overall life. Understanding that there is not just one thing is absolutely essential. If we actually want a hope of, again, having realistic expectations, but knowing where it is that we need to focus our time, our effort, and our energy. Otherwise, we can be spending all of that stuff looking in the wrong spot, wondering, why am I not seeing the breakthrough that I would expect? Where the problem is not always where the problem is. So I would absolutely recommend that, number one, you do the exercises that we've outlined in this particular video here. But then beyond that, and this requires a little bit more introspection. Be honest and have a consideration. Where in your life are you experiencing the most amount of stress? And what is your intuition telling you? Is it coming from a physical problem that's never been fully resolved? Is it coming from a chemical problem that's never been fully resolved? Or is it coming from an emotional or a feeling, a thought that's never been fully resolved? Or any of these that still may be going on in the course of your life? Again, this is where it requires that deep down look and that sense of responsibility. Your healthcare practitioner can only help you so far, but you also have to be willing to face the circumstances of your own present reality, knowing your present reality does not need to be your forever reality. You can make the right kinds of changes. You can improve the quality of your life. It does require, though, properly identifying where the origin of it's all coming from. So I hope that you found this particular video illuminating and valuable in your discovery of finding out where that would be. In the next video, we're going to have a look at the number one biggest myth that unfortunately keeps people very unwell and from actually expressing the life that they would desire. We'll see you then. Thank you.